Okay, so picking up in section 2.3, we talked about length. Let's talk about volume. Volume measures the amount of space that is occupied by a substance. So this is three-dimensional. Length is two-dimensional, volume is three-dimensional. If we have a cubic or a rectangular solid or some regular geometric shape, we can use geometric equations to calculate the volume. And here's an illustration of a cube that is 1 meter on a side. So each of these blue boxes represents a meter, and the volume of a cube is the same as the volume of a rectangular solid, length times width times height. So if the height is 1 meter, and the length is 1 meter, and the width is 1 meter, then the volume is 1 meter cubed. So this represents 1 cubic meter. If we take one piece of this, so this little square here, start over. Each of these boxes is not 1 meter. This distance on the side is 1 meter. It's divided into 10 sections. So each of those little squares would be 1 decimeter, or 1/10 of a meter. So this little guy here is 1 square cubic decimeter. Oh, it's going to be a great day. Cubic decimeter. A cubic decimeter is equal to 1 liter. Now, a liter is a unit that we do have some familiarity with. I know what 2 liters looks like. Do you know what 2 liters looks like? Yeah, they sell soda in 2-liter bottles, right? So 1 liter is half of a 2-liter soda bottle. So we have a clue about how big that is. So this purple cube here is 1 liter, half a 2-liter soda. If we zoom in on that and divide its sides into 10, now each of these little boxes is 1 centimeter, 1/100th of a meter. And so this little guy here in the corner is a cubic centimeter. A cubic centimeter is the same as a milliliter. It's 1/1000th of a liter. So when we measure solid volumes, we typically use cubic centimeters or cubic meters if it's a really large sample. For liquids, we tend to use liters and milliliters. Just like, if you're measuring a solid in English units, it's going to be maybe cubic inches or cubic feet or cubic yards. But if you're measuring a liquid, it's going to be ounces or cups or gallons or something like that. So this is one thing it's important to understand. What color do I have? Let's see, let's go with that color. This little guy right here. A milliliter is exactly the same as a cubic centimeter. Okay? And in medicine, they call this a cc. 1 cc. cc stands for cubic centimeter. Okay, it's exactly the same thing. They just call it a cc instead of a milliliter or a cubic centimeter. In unit conversions, that 1 milliliter equals 1 cubic centimeter often gets overlooked and is very puzzling. So remember that guy. A liter is the same as a cubic decimeter, but you won't end up using that. Mass. Mass measures the amount of matter present in an object. It's different than weight. Weight is force, a force of attraction by gravity. So mass is matter, and the unit we use is the gram or the kilogram. So 1 kilogram is 2.2046 pounds. So it's a good idea to have a rough idea of how big a kilogram is. It's about 2 pounds. A pound is equal to 453.59 grams. You don't need to memorize these relationships. What I do want you to know, though, is roughly how big a gram is, roughly how big a kilogram is. If I gave you a steak that weighed a kilogram, would that fill you up? You'd be hard-pressed to eat a kilogram of steak. That's over 2 pounds. Okay? Now, some of you guys maybe could do that on an empty stomach, but that's a lot of meat to eat, right? What if I gave you 5 grams of a steak? Little tiny bit, okay? A pound is over 400 grams. A gram is a very small amount. Typical substances, a gram is about the size of a garden pea. You know, a green pea. So little pea, that's how much a gram is. So a kilogram is much bigger than a gram. So here's a concept check, and this is the sort of thing that you should be able to answer just having a clue about how big these units are. Choose the statements that contain improper use of commonly used units. In other words, the statement that doesn't make any sense. A gallon of milk is equal to about 4 liters of milk. Is that a reasonable statement? Yeah, so visualize the gallon jug of milk and 2 liters of soda. Are those roughly the same volume? They are. It's a little hard to compare because they're in different shapes, but they're ballpark the same. How about saying that a 200-pound man has a mass of about 90 kilograms? Is that reasonable? It is, because a kilogram is about twice as big as a pound. So if you take 90 times 2, 180, that's real close, so that's reasonable. Basketball player has a height of 7 meters tall. No. 7 feet tall. Some of those guys are really tall, right? But how big is a meter? A meter is like a yard. 3 feet. So 7 meters would be how many feet? 21 feet. No, that one's ridiculous. Okay, so this is one of the answers. That one's not reasonable. A nickel is 6.5 centimeters thick. Reasonable? No. What's the relationship between a centimeter and an inch? A centimeter is smaller, but is it a lot smaller or a little bit smaller? Well, an inch is 2.5 centimeters. So, you know, an inch is maybe about this long on my thumb. So that is like 2.5 centimeters. So saying that a nickel is 6.5 centimeters thick, that's more than an inch thick, right? No, that's not right. Now 6.5 millimeters, that might be reasonable. So it will help you a lot to have a clue about these metric units and how large they are. Any questions?